So,
And then I didn't join a committee of in THIMUN process yet, so I don't know what is the THIMUN process. So if you can give many detail about to the THIMUN, I would like to be happy.
yes, that's what I'm doing actually now. So, each session starts off with a roll call. The committee directive mentions the member states in the committee by alphabetical order, and you're supposed to say present or present in voting. What's the difference? During the voting procedures in MUN, you have three options. The first one is in favor, the second is against, the third one is abstaining. So if you state that you're present in voting, you're not able to abstain on a certain thing. However, if you state present, you can abstain. And the second thing is the opening speeches. After the roll call, the chair board expects an opening speech from all the delegates, and this opening speech involves the agenda item and the country's point of view on the agenda item. It should not be longer than 2 minutes, and it should start off by stating honorable chair or fellow delegates, something like that. And at the end, the floor should be yielded. And after the opening speeches, we have the lobbying time. It is based on unmoderated caucus and hybrid procedure, and during this time, you're expected to work on your resolution paper in the first day, actually. And when the resolutions are submitted, lobbying time will elapse, and the debate upon the resolution will start after that. And now I'd like to move on with committee documents and votings. So the main committee document in the THIMUN procedure is the resolution, and it consists of three parts. The first part is the heading. So the heading of resolution should include the committee name, agenda item, main, and co-submitters. But I'd like to mention that the co-submitters should be written in English alphabetical order. And if you're co-submitting a document, you don't have to be in favor of it. You can abstain or vote against it as well.
I am so sorry. Can you wait 1 minute because I have to check something. Thank you so much. Okay, you can continue.
Okay, so the second part is the preambulatory clauses. So in preambulatory clauses, you explain the past actions that have been taken. Maybe if there's agreements, you can mention those, and actually the main reasoning behind writing this resolution. And the phrases, there are a few phrases for the preambulatory clauses, such as acknowledging, being aware that, deeply conscious of, and they should be written in italic, actually. For example, the sample that I have given was from a GA committee. It was a legal committee, and the agenda item was media manipulation. I have mentioned a few laws, and in the last preambulatory clause sample, I have mentioned one of the reasoning behind writing this resolution. So the third part of the resolution is the operative clause part, and it is actually the main point of the resolution. In this part, you're expected to offer applicable solutions, including the answers for all WH questions. And although the sample is not accurate right now, you're expected to write the operative clause phrases in italic, and you have to underline them as well. So I would also like to talk about the form of this. This number one thing, like this whole thing is called the clause. Such as we see in A and B. And if you want to divide this subclause as well, they will be called sub-subclauses. And as detailed, it should be as detailed as possible. So now I'd like to move on with motions and yields. So in THIMUN procedures, the debate does not really rely on motions if we compare to hybrid. However, we still have a few motions to keep in mind. The first one is the motion to suspend or adjourn the meeting. Let's say we have started the session at 9 and the session ends at 9:40. If the chairboard is still moving or on, or if the chairboard asks you to end the meeting, the delegates raises his motion to end and suspend the meeting. When that's in order, the formal session is over until the next session. However, motion to adjourn the meeting is done at the last formal session of the conference. It is done to specifically mention that the formal part of the MUN is over and they will move on with the closing ceremony and etc. And the second one is motion to move to the previous question. Let's say delegates are discussing upon the resolution and they're delivering in favor speeches. But it is seen that they're not really enough in favor speeches and they should move on with the against speeches. If the delegate raises this motion, and if there are no objections to this motion, they will move on with the against speeches. And in time and procedures, motions are not voted for, keeping in mind the majority. If there are any objections, that motion will not be in order and that won't be voted upon. And the third one is motion to move on with the voting procedure. Well, let's say you're delivering speeches upon a certain clause amendment. During that, if you believe that the speeches are enough and they should not be delivered more, you raise this motion to move on with the voting procedure. And if there are no objections, you will vote upon the committee documents. And now I'd like to move on with yields. You have the first option is to yield to another delegate. Let's say I'm the delegate of France, and I'd like the delegate of USA to speak next. I say the delegate yields the floor to the delegate of United States of America. If the other delegate accepts this, they will be delivering their speeches. If not, they're not obliged to. And the most common one, yield to the chair. If the delegate is finished with their speech and they do not want to use their remaining time, the delegate might yield the floor to the chair and take their seats. So now we will move on with points. We have 4 of them in time and procedure. The first one is point of order. This point is raised by delegates if there are any inaccuracies regarding the flow of the session. Let's say the chair board promised me that I will be delivering a speech, but they have forgotten me. If I raise this point of order, they will be considering that and they will correct their mistakes. The second one is point of information. It may be raised by delegates if they have a question to a certain delegate or the chair board member. The third one is point of personal privilege. This is usually used by delegates when they have concerns or disturbances. It is also possible for delegates to raise this motion if they have technical problems in online conferences. And the fourth one is point of parliamentary inquiry. This one is given if a delegate has any questions regarding the rules of procedure. And now I want to talk about a term really important in THIMUN, which is an amendment, which is also seen in Harvard procedure. However, it's not really familiar, although it is involved in the rules of procedure booklet of the Harvard MUN. An amendment is when you have a resolution and you believe that there's something that should be added, removed, or changed. You have 3 options. So there are also 2 types of amendments actually. The first one is friendly amendment and the other one is unfriendly amendment. Let's say I have written an amendment and the main submitter of the resolution believes that it is efficient. If they accept it as a friendly amendment, that amendment will not be discussed and it will immediately be added to the resolution paper. However, if the main submitter of the resolution believes that it is not really efficient, the delegates will be discussing upon the amendment and the decision will be made by the voting procedure and the majority will decide if this amendment will pass and will be added to the resolution. And now I'd like to talk about voting. So delegates may vote upon resolutions and motions. Actually, there's no term as like a previous paper or maybe a draft. It is just a resolution. If it passed, it's a formal resolution. And if the delegate says that they are in favor, against, and the delegate can vote in favor, against, or they can abstain. And the voting will be done with the majority of the votes. If the majority of the votes is in favor, it will pass. If not, it won't. And if there are really so many abstentions, The delegates may raise a motion to divide the House. So when the delegate divides the House, all of the delegates are expected to either vote in favor or against. So THIMUN is pretty much it. So now I'll move on with the hybrid procedure. So starting the session, just like THIMUN, it starts off with the roll call where the committee directors will call on each member state with English alphabetical order, and they will state either present or present and voting. For the opening speeches, it is pretty much the same as well. They have to deliver a speech shorter than 2 minutes, and it should consist of the insight of the topic and the point of views of each country. And after the opening speech, we have GSL, which is General Speakers List. And the committee will take a GSL list for the topic area being discussed for each session. A member may add its name to the speakers list, and they can also remove their name from the list. Let's say I am a committee board member, and I have added 7 members to the general speakers list. However, during the session, there should always be 3 members in the general speakers list for the committee to not fail. So I may not expect all of them to deliver speeches. They may move on with their speeches for the next general speakers list in the next session. So let's move on with motions. Motions are literally the thing that makes Harvard flow. So the first one is to motion to have moderated caucus, and that one is what I have mentioned before in the beginning of our video, which is when the agenda item is divided to certain topics and the delegates are expected to talk upon it with an individual speaker time and a total speaker time. Let's give an example. Motion to open a moderated caucus with the time being 15 minutes and individual speaker time being 1 minute upon the human rights in Palestine, let's say. This may be an example. So the motions will be raised by all of the delegates and they will be voted upon. If they pass, they will be done in a specific order. The longest motion will be entertained first. And if the motions are in the same length, the individual speaker time will also be considered. And this other motion is the motion to open an unmoderated caucus. So the unmoderated caucus is the same as lobbying in THIMUN, and during this time you're expected to work on your committee document. So motion to follow up is not something we see in THIMUN procedure, however it's really common in hybrid procedure. Let's say there is a general speakers list and the delegate delivers a speech. After that, the delegate receives a question and they answer it, but the delegate asking the question believes that the answer is not enough. If they raise this motion to follow up, they may ask another question if it is granted.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question about the motions?
Of course.
First of all, I would like to give a sample. For example, the one delegate gave a motion in the total time 20 minutes, and the delegates talked about this motion in 20 minutes. But when the 20 minutes are finished, the delegates think we should talk about this motion and we should talk about again. So as you know, the another delegate raise your placards for give a motion, and the delegate say motion to extension for the last motion, and if the all delegates say second for this extension, the delegates will talk about this motion again. So Do you want to add something about this issue?
So as you mentioned, if a delegate believes that emotions should be entertained more and we should have more time to focus on the specific motion, they may raise a motion to extend the current caucus time, and if there are no objections, the committee will move on with it, but that really depends on the delegate, so I'd like to move on with the other motions. The other one is the motion to suspend the meeting or adjourn the meeting, the one that I mentioned in THIMUN. If the session is over, the delegate raises the motion to suspend the meeting. If all of the formal sessions are over, the delegate raises the motion to adjourn the meeting. And there's also another option apart from the extension. The delegate may also request to terminate the caucus if they believe that there are no further speakers and the debate is getting late, maybe. They may raise this motion to terminate this caucus, and if there are no objections, that motion will be terminated, and the committee will move on with the general speakers list or other motions.
Okay, thank you.
So now I'd like to talk about points. These are the ones that I mentioned in time. And actually, point of personal privilege is done when the delegate has a concern about a certain topic. It may be something technical. It may be the window not being closed or anything. And the other one is point of information. This can be raised by delegates if they have a question to the chairboard or another delegate. The point of order, if this point may be raised by delegates if they believe that there's any problems or inaccuracies regarding the flow of the session. And the fourth one is point of parliamentary inquiry. This may be raised by a delegate if they have a question regarding the rules of procedure to the committee board member. And directives. Now, we do not really see directives in Harvard procedure, however, it is written in the rules of procedure booklet. But in crisis committees, we're really familiar with them. Directives are written by delegates in order to take action, and there are three types of them, as I mentioned before: joint, committee, and personal directive. The difference between them are the signatories, and joint directives are written by multiple members of the committee who wish to take part in a specific action. And I have also mentioned the types of directives, so you can take a look at them once more. And that is pretty much it for the Harvard procedure. Thank you for watching. That's all we're going to talk today.
Okay. So lastly, I have a question to you. First of all, I would like to thank you for your presentation for our interview, and then you have given many information about Harvard procedure in MUN in detail, and I would like to want something lastly. Can you explain THIMUN process in general lastly?
Of course. So the THIMUN procedure starts off with the roll call. After that, delegates deliver their opening speeches. They're expected to deliver one. And after that, the committee will move on with lobbying. And the lobbying will last until all of the resolutions are submitted. And after the resolutions, the main submitter of each resolution will deliver their main submitter speech, and the resolution will be discussed as a whole, and the chairboard will expect in favor and against speeches upon the resolution. During this process, some delegates may request amendments, and if they pass, they will be added, removed, or changed in the resolution. And after all of those speeches, the committee moves on with the voting procedure upon the whole resolution, as well as the amendments. And then they may vote in favor, against, or they may abstain. And with the majority, the resolution either passes or fails. And that is pretty much it. After that, we also, let's say there are many resolutions, and we also have this thing called plenary session and time and procedure. For GA committees, let's say we have 6 of them. For each one of them, one resolution per committee is chosen. And at the last day of the conference, GA committees are together in a huge like conference hall, and let's say I'm a delegate from GA5, and they start off by GA1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we discuss all of these resolutions, but we're not able to make any amendments. We're only able to vote in favor or against, and if the resolution passes a plenary session, then congrats, you're successful, and that's a formal resolution.
Thank you so much. And by the way, our interview has finished. So thank you for your interesting.
Thank you.